So it was supposed to just be a special on the Duggars, and it was on TLC, of course, and people went crazy. Like, they absolutely loved them. I was one of them. Everybody was fascinated with like how they lived, what their story was, like the whole scoop. So basically TLC ran with it, and it wasn't right away. So they didn't do their show or whatever, air it until it was 16 Kids and Counting. So 16 Kids and Counting started, and it basically went until it was 19 Kids and Counting, if you recall. And then it got canceled, and we're going to kind of chat about why it got canceled. So I'm going to start with these ones. So in 2015, so that is kind of when the poop hit the fan, if you guys remember. So in 2015, at Ashley Madison, if you guys remember, was a website. And basically it was a website for people to cheat. So if you were looking to have an affair on your spouse, you would go on to Ashley Madison and meet people on there. And that, it turns out, is what Josh was doing. So there was this great big leak, if you remember. Somebody hacked Ashley Madison, probably the best website you could ever hack. It's full of cheaters. Hacked Ashley Madison's website, got like a great big list of all the names of people who were having affairs, and Josh was on there. So he got exposed. He admitted it. He posted this big statement saying how sorry he was and pray for his wife and family, and he feels so bad. And then he said he was addicted to corn. And at that time, it also came out that he had been inappropriate with 5 young girls, 4 of who were his actual sisters. We don't know who the 5th is, but from doing my digging and things, it looks like the girl that was not a sister is how Jim Bob found out. So what I heard online from a bunch of sources is that Josh was coming out of this girl's bedroom at one point or something, and Jim Bob saw him, confronted him, and supposedly Josh admitted to what was going on. Again, this is just from sources I've read, so I'm not sure. Hi, Cotton. So that's apparently how it came out. But the parents and the family hid it all of those years, and we had no idea it went down. So for 12 years or something, it was hidden. So in 2015, it came out that Josh had done this to his siblings. Anna claims that he had told her, which I think I believe. Kirsty, thanks for joining the family, babes, sending me the love. So I think I believe that that's true, that he probably did tell Anna. So of course the inner family knew, just the inner family, the girls obviously who had those inappropriate touchings happen from Josh, and the parents and a couple other people, which we'll talk about. So in 2015, that all came out. TLC basically was like, peace out. I'm not dealing with this. Like, I can't talk about this or share this story anymore. We need to be out. So they canceled the show. Kimberly, thank you. So they basically canceled 19 Kids and Counting. And at that time, Jim Bob had already started his own production company. So TLC was dealing with Jim Bob's production company. Jim Bob then hired like a political advisor or whatever you want to call it, who had actually worked for Huckabee. And this political advisor thought it was best to get the girls who were SA'd, his sisters, to go on a talk show and basically downplay the whole situation to make TLC get to a place where they were okay with the family again. So I'll show you a picture of the girls. So it was Jill and Jessa, and they went on the talk show. This is just sick. I can't believe a family member or parent would allow you to do this after what happened to them. But anyway, this is, I think it's crooked, isn't it? This is Jill and Jessa. Trying to turn it. There we go. So Jill and Jessa went on this talk show. And when you rewatch it now, it has a whole other meaning now that we know they were made to do this to make TLC okay with them. If you've watched the documentary, you know that they were all part of this IBLP church, which stands for, I always have to read it or I get it all messed up. I think I could get organized. No, of course I can. Which stands for Institute of Basic Life Principles. It's basically like a program that churches kind of picked up and people ran with, and it had its hands in everything, like homeschooling. It had its own army, like you name it, this program had it. So they were members of this and extremely faithful, loyal members of this program. And one of the things this program says is it goes God, then dad, then mom, then the kids. So basically they didn't feel like they owned themselves. They didn't feel like they could say no or have their own voice. So they did whatever they were told. So when their dad said to them, you need to go on this talk show and basically act like what Josh did to you is okay, they were like, okay, dad. And that's what they did. So God love them. They got on there. They tried to act like they were okay with things. They had a brave face on. They kind of broke down a bit, but they did it and it worked. So TLC then became okay with them and then decided to bring them back. But the stipulation was they weren't going to bring back 19 Kids and Counting because now it was tainted because of Josh. So they actually started the Counting On show. If you remember Counting On, it was first, I think it was Counting On with Jill and Jessa. And then it was just Counting On. And it really focused on the kind of the older siblings and what they were doing, like their marriages, their babies and stuff like that. So Jim Bob and the family got their own way and they got their show back on. So I want to go back just to do a little side note about this before we continue. So yes, in 2015 is when we found out about what Josh did to everyone, but there's a whole backstory that just came out in the last little bit, in the last probably year or two that I've been reading up on about Josh and kind of what went down. And in the documentary, in Shiny Happy People, Jim Holt kind of brings to light a lot more of it. So this story's crazy, guys. So I'll show you first who Jim Holt is. So Jim Holt is married to Bobby Holt. And there's a whole other thing brewing with those two as well that we'll have to get into. Guys, this whole thing's just nuts. But this is them. So this is Jim Holt and this is Bobby. Can you guys see the picture okay? There we go. So in the documentary, we meet Jim Holt and Bobby. Now, if you were a loyal follower of the show, you will recognize them because they were actually on 19 Kids and Counting. They were really good friends with the Duggars. They have 11 kids and this whole relationship is crazy right now. It is toxic. And we will talk about this in a sec, but I just want to talk about Josh and what he did to his sisters first. So in 2015, it's outed what he did. Everybody finds out. But in 2005, Jim Holt had found out. So it appears that Josh had done this to his sisters for about 2 years. They think from about 2002 to 2004, 2005, that this was going on. Unfortunately, I feel awful for these poor girls, but supposedly that's when this was going down. So in 2005, Jim Holt found out. Now, if you watch the show, you know that Josh had gone to Jim and asked for his permission to court his daughter. And in this IBLP cult, courting means for marriage. So they don't date, they court for marriage. So he asked for Jim Holt's approval and Jim agreed. And then he found out about what Josh had done to his siblings. And of course he was ripping mad and he went to Jim Bob and was like, what are you doing? Like, why were you dangling my daughter in front of your son when he's done all these disgusting things? And anyway, he kind of had it out with them. Jim Bob was in like politics at that point, and he had been advocating for this new website for sex offenders to be registered. So Jim Holt was like, your son needs to be on this list. And Jim Bob was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, we need to do something. So he decides he's going to do it. They're going to go file a report. So they go to a state trooper, which I don't know if that's odd or if that's a common thing in Arkansas, but they went to a state trooper. Jim Holt in the show now says that it turns out the state trooper was actually friends with Jim Bob. So maybe that's why it went down the way it did. But wait till you hear this. So Jim Holt, Jim Bob, and Josh all go to the this sheriff or whoever he was, this state, and the police station. And Josh spills his guts. He literally tells everything to this state trooper. He tells about his sisters, the person who wasn't his sister. He tells the whole thing and nothing is done. Like nothing. Nothing's filed. There's no report made. There's no check-ins or follow-ups done after. But again, Jim Holt now says that Jim Bob was friends with this man. Here's the other thing, guys. This is, anyway, this is so disturbing and I can't believe this didn't come out in the show. But anyway, so then this, here he is. And yes, this is a mugshot. This is Joseph Hutchins, guys. Joseph Hutchins is the state trooper that Josh went to and spilled his guts. This is Jim Bob's buddy. Okay. So Joseph Hutchins hears Josh's whole tale about what he's done to his sisters and other young girls. And now I'm thinking in his head, he must have been like, right on, Josh. because 2 years later in 2007, this man gets arrested for the same thing, inappropriate pictures of children. So this man was doing the exact same thing, or wanting to do the exact same thing that Josh had come in and confessed to. So he gets arrested. He's a state trooper. He's disgusting, and he gets arrested. So in 2007, I know it's crazy, right, guys? It just blows my mind, this whole story. So he gets arrested in 2007 and goes to jail. In 2010, he gets paroled, and then he does it all again and gets caught. So he gets paroled. Shortly after, they find out he's doing it again. He gets rearrested, goes to court, and people online are saying he was sentenced to 60 years. I'm having a hard time believing that, only because he only served 15 years. So I'm not sure, like that is nowhere near half or 85% that I thought that they do in the States, but I'm not sure. Maybe someone can find out that information, but supposedly he was sentenced for 60 years. He only served 15. He was actually released last year, the same year Josh was in court for the same stuff, for inappropriate pictures of children. So he gets released last year. He was 84 years old. He's 85 now. So this is who Jim Bob decided to take his son to confess what Josh had been doing to his children. Like, just, it made no sense at all. So I got to go back just to give a little bit more. So after this happened, I'll make this bigger so you guys can see. Here we go with Jim Holt and Bobby again. So after this happened, they went to the police station. They did all this. The Duggars did nothing for Josh. They didn't put him in counseling. They didn't like separate him from the girls. So what happened was they sent him to a program for troubled boys that the IBLP, which is, again, the Institute of Basic Life Principles. Let me just read you what their motto is. It says they are a non-denominational Christian organization with a focus on affirming God's words and its principles, which are vital to one's daily walk with Christ. That's their belief. And basically, they are like an ultra conservative Christian borderline belief system, and it's disgusting. So we got to get into this. So they sent him to this troubled home, or he went to jail in 2005. No, he didn't, Jules. No, he did not. He went to the state trooper and confessed everything in 2005, and the state trooper did nothing. No report, no checkups, nothing. Just gave him a lecture and let him leave. Thanks, Kimberly. And the state trooper that he actually went to ended up in jail himself in 2007, and then basically reoffended in 2010 and just got out of jail last year for the same stuff. All right. So Jim Holt, Bobby, here we go. So basically this whole thing happened in 2005. They send him now to this school for troubled, not even a school, this like camp for troubled boys. And he didn't even finish the program. So they were taping 19 Kids and Counting at this time. So they sent him to this thing to straighten him out. I'm sure there was no counseling there. You can just imagine what type of thing it was. But they sent him to this. And then it's the time when they are starting the show, getting really into it. And they had to take pictures, supposedly, like for the show, like advertising. And everybody was like, where's Josh? Where's Josh? And they were like, oh, he's building homes with the IBLP program for charity and, you know, special situations and whatever. Like, it was just BS. And actually, Amy Duggar confirmed that on the documentary. She's in it. And she got on and said that the family all told everyone in the rest of the extended family that he was building houses somewhere. And maybe they did that in this troubled camp. I don't know, but this is what they told everyone. So because they needed this photo shoot, they brought him home. So for the show, they brought him home. They told everyone it was because it was somebody's birthday or something. I don't know if it was Jim Bob's or what it was, but they brought him home. He had no counseling, no nothing. And then let me show you a little side note here about the home. So as you guys know, I'll pull up the picture with them in the background, or the house in the background. So here they go. So here's their home. If you watch the show, you probably remember the episode where they were planning this home and then building the home. So this home that they built was actually plans for one home that they doubled. So it's two homes put together. So on one end, they put all the boys. And on the other end, they put all the girls. So they had like their own wards, like the girls' end, the boys' end. I didn't know this, but all my followers have been commenting on my posts that in the show, when they moved in, there was locks on the outside doors of the children's bedrooms, especially the girls' end. Now we know why. Like, why would you need locks on the outside so no one can get in and out? It's because your oldest son was going in and visiting and paying inappropriate, disgusting visits to your daughters. Like, now it makes sense. I didn't even notice this on the show, but everyone else did. Beta, hi, darling. Thank you. So yes, and you're my number 223 in the family. Thank you. So when this house got built, they built it with the 2 wings. Josh is now back home because it's his birthday is what they were saying, but they needed to do filming and finish the home. According to the documentary, TLC actually gave them $200,000. Thank you, Jocelyn, for this home to get it finished. So they were getting all this money for filming the show, of course, Jim Bob's new production company, but they also got $200,000 to help them finish this home so that they could like tape it and then get into the house for filming and stuff. So, I mean, they were doing so well. So they built this home, 2 separate ends, girls on one end, boys on the other. And they knew the whole time that Josh had been doing this to his sisters. And he's living in the home. Thanks, Beta. Of course, we know that they have separate ends and supposedly locks on the doors now, but you can't tell me these girls are now okay with it. Like, their brother has just done disgusting, inappropriate things to them, and he's just welcomed back in the home. They didn't tell anyone. Anyway, that is kind of the gist of the whole Josh kind of part, how it was 2005 that this came out, but none of us knew. And then in 2015, it actually came out. So back to the Holts just for 2 seconds. So as you know, there we go. Jim Holt and Bobby Holt were on the documentary. So Jim Holt is the one who went with Jim Bob and Josh to the state trooper to confess everything, and nothing came of it. Jim Holt says that it's because Jim Bob was good friends with this state trooper, who actually ended up being an offender himself. And then we've got Bobby. So Bobby is Jim's wife, and Bobby actually testified in court against Josh. So they're longtime friends of the family. They knew all about the horrible essay to the daughters and other girls. And then it comes out, of course, in 2015 that Josh had an affair on his wife and that he was saying he was addicted to corn. Use your rhyming words if you know what I mean. And then, of course, in 2001, 2021, it comes out everything else that Josh had been doing, all the disgusting, horrible, violent pictures of children that he had on his phone. I hate to even talk about it, but just for this purpose, we need to say it. They found out about all of that. So she actually went to court and testified against Josh. Jill Duggar says that she was actually going to go to court and testify, but then she didn't have to because Bobby went, and there were a couple other witnesses as well. So Bobby goes to court, she testifies, then they decide they're going to do this documentary. All sounds good, right? She's got her hand on his leg. Everything looks, up and up. She's looking at him in the documentary, if you watch it, with loving eyes, looking at him for kind of his approval before she speaks. Anyway, they're laughing together. It turns out, so this was aired June 2nd. It turns out that in April, Bobby and one of her sons, Samuel, filed for, I gotta say the right word because I keep calling it restraining orders. They filed for, where is my paperwork for that one? An order of protection. I always call it a restraining order, but the technical term for it is an order of protection. And they filed for it against Jim Holt. So thanks, Danny. So Jim Holt has to go to court now because according to Arkansas law, there has to be a bench trial where everyone is there. So he has to be there, everyone involved, the witnesses, all that stuff have to be there. It's like a little mini trial, and they go in in order to file for an order of protection. So they did this. So this was in May that this happened. This was released in June 2nd, and there's no disclaimer or anything in the show, which is so odd. But what has come out from this is it must have been really bad because the order of protection was granted against Jim Holt. And guys, he got 10 years, which is the max amount that can be given for domestic family violence in Arkansas. So whatever went on was bad. And when I looked it up, it says this: to get an order of protection filed, it has to meet the burden of proof that there has been violent acts and threats in the past and that there's reasonable objective fear of violence in the future. So it sounds bad. Now, there hasn't been any kind of news posted about the trial for this. However, there are a whole bunch of people posting from sources that were there or close friends of the family that have come forward. And what we're hearing, whether it's rumor or not, I can't confirm. I'll just let you guys have the information. You can decide. But what is being said right now is that this man, Jim Holt, is kind of MIA right now. And basically, Bobby and them are worried because he's not reaching out to people. They don't quite know where he is. He's been banned from his family home. He now has this order of protection. Everyone is saying that there was videos played and graphic photos shown in court when they went to this bench trial. And that's why it was granted. But I have also heard some rumors that Bobby may have been abusive with her children as well. I don't know if it's just like the blanket training, spanking kind of side of it that IBLP pushes, or if it's more. I don't know, but this is kind of the rumor. Word on the street is that she only has two of her 11 children living with her right now. And at least 4 of the other children that are still young are living with their siblings, their older siblings. Again, I can't confirm all of this. It's just kind of from sources and things, but this is what has just gone on in the last 2 months. A lot of people are upset, saying that Amazon, the producers should have put like a disclosure before releasing on June 2nd, just saying that, since the filming that there's been like domestic violence involved in this. But I don't know, maybe it's too late. Maybe they can't add things after a certain date and they had to like put it out. I don't know, but they're a large part of this documentary. So if you watch the documentary, just watch their body language, because she's got her hand on his leg. They're laughing together. Their whole part was a bit disturbing at parts as well. He got 12 years plus 20 years parole. It's over. Yeah. Right, Stace? They basically laughed at one point in this because they talked about the age when they met and how anyway, she was 14, you guys, and he was 19. And they're kind of laughing it off like, oh, it's just the way things were back then. Like, no, it wasn't. And then they're like, oh, it's our religion. That's not right then. But this is what went down. So it's not nice. They have 11 children now. So they had the same beliefs basically as the Duggars. And we'll see if more stuff comes up. If you're interested in kind of all this, hit follow, and I post updates anytime I get any information about any of this, if you guys wanted to follow as well. All right, let me pull up my picture and we will get back to the craziest parts of this documentary. And guys, it's disturbing. Trigger warnings for everybody if things like this get to you. It's disturbing, some of the stuff that went down in this show. All right, I'll put this up so we can see the happy family of the Duggars. Not so happy, right? Just to start, I watched this show religiously and was fascinated by like the organization, how you run a household with 19 people. And I'm sure other people did. So to watch this documentary and learn some of the horrid things that were going on in this family and in this like IBLP cult, it's bad. All right, so let's start. I, of course, watched it. We did a watch group or a watch party. So we all watched it together. And guys, it was disturbing. There's 4 episodes currently. It's called Shiny Happy People. It's on Amazon Prime. And the producers have said that they have enough material to make other episodes. So it does sound like we're going to get a season 2. They said they're going to look into the Bates family as well. If any of you followed the Bates, they said that they want to talk about, is it the Joshua group? I think it's called. They want to look into that more. And they said they already have enough to do like a whole other episode from the stuff they had to cut out from taping about the Duggars and the IBLP. So here's the first thing. So as you guys know, in 2015, 19 Kids and Counting was canceled. We all knew that. We knew it was because of the cheating. And Josh came out, said he was addicted to corn, rhyming words, and what he did to his sisters. So that was all in 2015. Counting On started shortly after that. And then Counting On was canceled in 2021. And it got canceled because of what Josh had done. So at the time, Josh was, of course, working at the car dealership. It was his work computer. So they found what some of the officers claimed was the most horrific images of children they had ever seen on Josh's computer. Anna stands by him, guys. His wife, Anna, stands by him. She thinks he was set up. Other people do as well, which of course is crazy to a lot of us. But look what she's been bred into. When we get into this, you'll see how she's been raised in this IBLP, and it's disturbing. So these disgusting pictures were found on his computer. He was, everything was seized. And the same day this happened, according to Jill and her husband, Derek, Jill Duggar, the sister, on the same day that his computer is seized and he's like being looked at for this disgusting stuff, his family releases a statement saying the opposite, saying that as far as we know, no one has been arrested for, this claim. And I just found the statement the other day. Like, it legit was released on the same day. So obviously it was a PR thing. I don't know if Jim Bob's PR rep or whoever is the one that did this, but they released this statement on the same day that Josh's computers and all that stuff was seized. Like, it's you can't make this stuff up. It's disgusting. So this was in 2021. Pretty much immediately, Counting On gets canceled, of course. And then they released a statement saying how they've loved working with TLC, but they're going to be moving on to other things, stay tuned, blah, blah, blah. And the show is canceled. So then, of course, court happens. So Anna Duggar, it turns out, was expecting, and I believe it was a week before Josh's arrest, she makes her announcement that she's expecting their 7th child. Then the baby, of course, is born. I think it was like, a day or something like that, or a month before the trial began. The baby's born. And guys, do you remember at the beginning when I told you that the reason Josh got caught cheating was the Ashley Madison website kind of scandal? So it came out that Ashley Madison got hacked. Josh's name was in that. So he'd been cheating on his wife, Anna. Guys, they named their 7th child Madison. Like, the website was Ashley Madison. Everybody, when this happened, was like, well, we can all say there's no way she's naming her 7th child Madison. No, she named her Madison. So if you recall, all of their children are named M names. Hold on, I'll find the list and read them to you. So they are all, where is it? Oh, it's not on that one. It's this one. So they are all Madison names. They are all M names. And it is Mackenzie, Mariella, Marcus, Mason, Michael, Meredith, and Madison. So they named her Madison. Like, I can't even wrap my head around how you name your daughter Madison when your husband got caught cheating on you on a website called Ashley Madison. But anyway, this is what happened. So this was all in 21 and 2022. So in 2022, the court finishes. He gets found guilty, and he ends up going to jail for 12 and a half years, I believe it was. He also is going to have 20 years of parole. So when he comes out, he's going to be on parole, and he is not allowed to have any unsupervised visits with minors, including his own children. A lot of people have been asking if he's done anything to his own kids. We don't know yet, and I don't know if we ever will, but he won't be able to in the future because apparently it's going to have to be supervised visits. I don't know who the supervised people are going to have to be, but hopefully it's not just his family members. The other news that we just got about Josh was in February, just this past February, he was actually found in the prison with a cell phone. So he did get an extra 2 months added to his sentence, and he was put in solitary confinement. So I'm assuming he must be talking to Anna and the children. I don't know, but he was found with a cell phone. If it was Anna, he'd never be near my kids. If I was Anna, I agree. I completely agree. So for Anna, we'll chat about Anna before we get back into the shocking moments of this documentary, but everyone kind of wants to know where Anna is right now. Anna, of course, is his wife. She went to court every day, like supporting him, being there for him with Jim Bob and a couple of the siblings. She basically has been pretty vocal, saying she thinks that he's set up. She's also been pretty vocal in the fact that she's going to stand by him. And she has also said that she will not be watching the documentary. She thinks everyone that was in the documentary is toxic, and she says she's not a fan of Jill's. And she's living on the Duggar family compound. So basically what happened when this first happened, and I don't know if it was 2015 or if it was the 2021 situation, but Jim Bob said to her, if you stick by Josh, I'll buy you a house. And he did. So Jim Bob bought them a house. They moved into the house. And then when Josh went to jail, to prison, she moved in with the Duggars. She apparently, according to sources now online, she wanted to move to be closer to the prison so she could see Josh more and so the kids could see him. And he said absolutely not. He supposedly told her that if she left his family, that she would hear things and see things and want to leave him. Shocker. So he wanted to protect their relationship and have her close to his family. So he has instructed her that he is to live with the Duggars. She is to live with the Duggars. So Anna Duggar King, of course, cousin Amy, I said Anna, Amy Duggar King, cousin Amy has come out and said that as soon as the court trial started, she offered her home to Anna and said, like, you can come live with me, Sammy, and I'll take care of you and your kids, like, come here. Apparently, Anna has never responded to that. And she said she's reached out to her on multiple platforms and never heard back. So she says she can't do any more than offer, of course, which it's wonderful that she did. But Anna chose to go live with the Duggars. As you know, the Duggars are an extremely powerful family in Arkansas. They are extremely popular in this IBLP system, and Anna was raised in this system. So her family loves the Duggars. And of course, Anna wanted to be a part of this from the get-go. If you watch the shows, you can tell how infatuated she was with Josh and how much she loves him and looks up to him. She has nothing, guys. She has, very little education. She grew up with this homeschooling program that we'll talk about with the IBLP program. It's garbage. This is what she grew up with. She doesn't work. She has 7 babies to take care of now. She loves Josh. She thinks, or is saying that she thinks he's set up. I have heard whisperings that she doesn't really follow the core beliefs of the IBLP system right now. But again, they're just rumblings. We're not 100% sure. But she still is extremely religious and following, just not the biggest ones, but we'll see how that goes. So that was all in 2022. So everything for the Duggars got canceled. They do have a website, which they update regularly when someone gets married or graduates or has a baby or things like that. But other than that, they've been pretty quiet on socials. The daughters, however, have not. So there's several daughters that are actually quite big on socials. Joanna's one. She has a YouTube channel. Jill and Ginger are both on Instagram all the time, posting pictures about their family and updates about their books and things. The boys, not so much. So a lot of the boys are pretty quiet on social media. So it's hard to tell who has left IBLP and who hasn't. It's also hard to tell who has distanced themselves from the family and who hasn't. But what we've figured so far is that Jill definitely has. She's come out basically and stated that she has. She's written a book now that'll be out in September. She was also on the documentary and shared quite a bit. So I'm sure the family's not very pleased about that. Ginger has. Ginger wrote a book in 2000. Hold on. Here it is. She wrote her book. Ginger did in 2000. Oh, it was just released in January, called Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear. In the book, she says that Jessa is now on her own individual spiritual journey as well. So it appears that Jessa has left. IBLP stands for the Institute of Basic Life Principles. And basically, they are not allowed to wear jeans. They are not, or pants, jeans and pants. They are not allowed to drink or do drugs, obviously. They're not allowed to take birth control. And basically what it all leads up to is they are told that they are to breed, to have babies, get married and populate the earth with, their offspring that believe this whole program. So they put God first, then their father, then their mother, and then the children. So basically the children have no say and the mother is barely a say. It's, the pastor and God is everything. So let's talk about the documentary. Guys, it's insane. The stuff that this IBLP program was instilling in people's head and still is crazy. And the Duggars followed it. Now, I personally don't think we saw enough on the show on TLC to kind of make a judgment that this was going on. We did see that they were religious, but we didn't know kind of this was on in the background. At least that's kind of what I'm taking so that I feel better about watching the show. But let mods know when you're ready to answer questions. Julian will pin them. Thanks, Serotonin. Yes, I'll take questions, guys, as soon as we get through kind of the most shocking things from the documentary. So the first thing, I guess, and we did talk a little bit about this, but the first thing that really surprised me in the documentary was that the family had kept Josh's past and what he did to his sisters secret. And I mean, of course, they would have to in order to be on this show. But to keep it secret and to have Josh still living in the home, just blew my mind. I just felt awful for these girls. I mean, the brother did all this to them and then the family just welcomes him home. Yes, they had locks on the doors in the bedrooms, but even that's disturbing. So that whole thing, I guess, was the first really shocking takeaway that I took. And all the stuff with the sheriff and him being in jail, it's crazy, just crazy. Thanks, Cindy. The second thing was that Jim Bob hired a political advisor and made Jill and Jessa go on that talk show to convince TLC or to make everything sound better that what Josh did to them wasn't really that bad. That whole thing is just completely disturbing to me. And I know we already talked about that, so I won't go deep in that. But that was really disturbing. The next thing I want to talk about, guys, this is nuts. Jim Bob and Michelle, of course, had to sign contracts, as you can imagine, with TLC. When they signed the contracts, They didn't have the kids read it. Now, most of the kids were minors at the time. So when you see the contract on the documentary, it's signed by Michelle and Jim Bob. And in brackets, it has all the minor children listed. Like it had all their names. Anyone that at the time they first started filming that was of adult age had their own contract to sign, but they've admitted that they didn't read it. They just trusted their dad and what he was saying. So this is crazy. I had no idea. But these kids, guys, did not get one penny from filming the show. And you can imagine the money they made from filming the show. None of them received a dime. So Jim Bob and his production company took all the money, and Jill talks about it finally in the documentary. So in 2020, we know that Jill finally got an attorney with her husband, Derek, and went to court and did receive money for the show. So she says it wasn't much. It was really disappointing. She says it was about $10 an hour. It equated to like minimum wage. But at least she got something. I don't know yet if she got it from Jim Bob or the show. But I hope it was from Jim Bob, but I think it was from the show. But what she shared was that for about 5 to 7 years of her adult life, her father was signing that contract with her name as a minor when she wasn't a minor. So she didn't know what was in the contract. She didn't know what was being signed, and he was signing it for her. So first of all, why did TLC's lawyers not pick up on that or check it? Second of all, that's disgusting that this family would do that to their own children. But I mean, I guess it was all about money for Jim Bob, and it's very evident now. So that was kind of a big shocker for me. I did not realize that this was happening. I didn't follow Jill's case in 2020, so I didn't realize that this had gone on. One thing Jill shared that was disturbing was that when she had her firstborn, she told TLC she didn't want them to film. She said, I want it to be my own moment. I don't want this film crew in here while I'm giving birth. Jim Bob went to her and went, no, sorry, you are. And he shows her this document. He's like, here's your contract. And she was like, I didn't sign that. And he shows her, and it was her signature. So then she recalls that on the day she married Derek, he came to her and said, oh, we got this paperwork for the show. You're going to have to sign this. And she was like, oh, okay, Dad. Signed it, whatever. She did not know what it was. Unfortunately, she signed it, trusting her dad, and this is what it was. So they signed this contract, basically saying that the show owned these big moments in their life. So in order to make them feel better, TLC agreed that they could do like a video diary kind of thing. Instead of having TLC's cameras taping her, they could do it themselves instead of having the camera crew in there. So that's what they did. So TLC ended up getting the footage, unfortunately. So Jill's birth, of course, was on the show. So they got it. Now, what she says happened after is Jill and Derek have been very vocal saying that they were struggling. They worked, all the kids, the adult kids had jobs. So most of them were working at like Jim Bob's car dealership. He had like antennas or whatever those are on his property, the cell phone towers. So he got a bunch of rent for that. He had like apartment, like he had lots of stuff basically going on. And the kids all did that for jobs, but it wasn't that lucrative. So Jill and Derek were actually struggling. They said at one point they actually had to get food stamps. Like you can imagine, they're on this like famous show and they're having to get food stamps to make ends meet. But anyway, they go to TLC and they ask TLC just to cover the cost of the birth of their child. TLC says to them, yeah, of course we will. We already gave the money to your dad. So Jill and Derek were like, but we're never going to see that. He doesn't pay us and he doesn't give us money. So TLC is like, you got to go to your dad. Like we deal with his production company. So they go to Jim Bob, they ask for money, and he's like, well, what do you want? And Derek's like, well, what do you think we're worth? So he offered $10 an hour, and they were like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, this is ridiculous. So Jim Bob said to them, if you want me to pay you, you need to sign this contract. And on the documentary, Jill and Derek basically said this contract signed away all of their rights basically. And Jim Bob's production company would own them for like forever. They would not be able to like do anything else, film anything else without Jim Bob's say. And they said no. So supposedly that's why they walked away from the show. So if you remember, they left Counting On, and Jill says this is why. We didn't know this at the time. I know there was some distance with the family and Jill and Derek. I'm assuming it was over that. Derek in 2020 said that there was distance from the family at that point. In the documentary, he shares that Jill and he hadn't been to their home, and I think it was like in 2 years or something, because it was so triggering for Jill to go. And I don't know if they would have even been welcomed really to the family. But I had no idea, as you can imagine, that any of that was going on, That was revealed in the documentary, and it was shocking that Jill and Derek and the rest of the adult children kind of had to go through that and not receive any money. The next thing, so we have to talk about the IBLP program, guys. And again, trigger warning, it's kind of disturbing what we found out on the documentary, but these people are still a member of this program. They still believe it wholeheartedly, and it's disturbing. So I'm going to tell you first about this man who started the whole thing. So in 1960, Bill Gothard is the person who started this program, foundation, cult, whatever you want to call it. So here he is. Here's old Bill. This is Bill Gothard right here, guys. He is the founder of this program, and the IBLP Church stands for the Institute of Basic Life Principles. And this is what their slogan is, or what they say they are. They say they are a non-denominational Christian organization with a focus on affirming God's words and its principles, which are vital to one's daily walk with Christ. Basically, they're this ultra-conservative Christian borderline belief system. And what he did is he made this big program, and then all these other people in churches picked it up. And guys, it's disturbing, like, to say the least, like, disturbing. So all these churches, especially in Arkansas, it's huge in Arkansas, picked it up. This man basically wrote this Bible for them, this program, and basically said the whole goal was to pop out babies. He said, God wants everybody to get married, and you need to pop out babies. Just to add to that, though, he, I guess, felt that if a man was interested in a woman, she couldn't say no, because it was God's pushing that this man would dream about this woman or be interested in this woman, and they would get to be married. Like that was kind of the thing. A woman wouldn't be able to say no to the man's kind of approach. So he, guys, never got married. Yet he's preaching to everybody that you have to get married, and he's never had any children. And it gets worse. So it comes out that about 30 women came forward accusing him of inappropriate actions. And finally, all the other heads of this program basically said, like, guys, we got to get him out. Like, he's going to take us down. So that's what they did. They tried to kick him out. He refused to go. And as I told you, the IBLP, this program, had their hands in everything, including like their own little army. So they had their own little boot camp that they were training these little soldiers in. I say little, but they were men, older. And they escorted him off the property. So he is living now somewhere in his home that he's always lived in with these boxes of these books he wrote, and he even had to step down as president. So he is gone from the whole program. So he is no more. And he himself, it sounds like he is a predator, like with these women. And on the show, on the documentary, these women come forward and tell what he did to them and how inappropriate it was and how uncomfortable they felt. Lala, thank you. And they also state that basically they were groomed from the moment they were born in this program. So this program teaches them that they cannot have a voice, that they cannot say no, that they do not own themselves, and they have to do especially what people like this and the head of the church tell them to do. And so when they were in situations with this man, they thought they had to do this. They didn't know how to get out of it. Like, it was disturbing. The next thing, shocking moment from this documentary. If you haven't watched the documentary, guys, it's called Shiny Happy People. If you're interested, hit follow, because I'm going to be posting updates whenever they come about the IBLP and the Duggar family. So anyway, the other thing that I wanted to share. So one of the things that came out, I'm going to put up the Duggars picture again here, guys. If you followed and watched the Duggars, 19 Kids Accounting or Counting On, you will know that Michelle's voice is basically famous. I mean, as well as her hair, but her voice is basically famous on this show. So as you know, she talks like this, and she never raises her voice, and nothing changes. And what came out in the documentary was this is part of this training that this program gives them. They basically say women need to be this soft-spoken, mellow, meek, mild person, and that's what Michelle did. And she basically trained herself to speak like that, and it's so disturbing. So Jill said that's what all these girls were being trained to do as well. They were being trained to be subservient and listen to what men told them, especially heads of the church, and have this little voice and all this stuff. So this was kind of one of the things that they were talking about in the documentary. And then they got into what they did to children. This has to be, for me, the most disturbing part. And we're going to talk about something called blanket training right now. And guys, it's horrible. So the church believes big time in basically corporal punishment. It believes in spanking It believes in rods, using rods on your children. It believes in something called blanket training, which we will talk about in just a moment. It's bad. So what they did is on the documentary, they took pieces from all of these like sermons that they had during these services for the IBLP cult, religion, whatever you want to call it. And it was people that got up and said the most disturbing things. One woman got up, guys, and was basically smiling through it all like this, talking like this, like it was this great thing. And she's talking about her 15-month-old. And she basically says that her 15-month-old, when she was trying to do this blanket training, was so rebellious and wouldn't, cooperate. And, I just didn't know what to do. I spanked him all day and I just could not get him to stop. Like, her 15-month-old, and she's spanking him repeatedly. Another man got up, and it was extremely creepy. I don't know if he was like a pastor or what, but this man gets up and he's talking to, his congregation or whoever it is at this conference, and he's telling them how to spank their children. And he even brings this little boy who is not his son, and it is disgusting. He brings this poor little boy on the stage, and he lays the little boy over his lap, and he starts pretend spanking him, like touching his actual bottom. And he's saying, like, this is what you say when you spank your child. And he's telling them how to, like, affirm God's word and reinforce God's, anyway, he's fake spanking him. Then he makes the boy get up and hug him. And he's like, okay, like, give me a hug. And the boy, I guess, doesn't hug him properly. So he says, oh, he didn't hug me properly or good enough. So now we got to keep spanking. So then he lays him over his leg again. Oh, Lena, thank you for the gifts, you guys. I see that. Thank you. So he lays the little boy over his lap again, and he starts spanking him again. And then he says, try again. And the little boy hugs him, and he's like, oh, that's good. Daddy loves you. Like, it was so creepy, you guys. And then it flashes to Cousin Amy. If you guys remember from the show, Cousin Amy is Jim Bob's niece. She was not a member of the IBLP church itself. So she wore like pants, and she was normal and outspoken. And, she was like the fun cousin. Well, she's very outspoken with all of this, and she came on and said that she remembers the Duggars doing this to their children. She remembers that they called it, what's the word? Encouragement. So they called it encouragement to make it sound nice. So she said she remembers them with this like sweet, kind voice coming in and saying like, is it time for encouragement? Do you need encouragement? And then if they did, they'd go in this back room and they'd spank their children with these rods. And Amy remembers it happening. And she said it was like normal in their household. All the kids knew what encouragement was and were like scared of encouragement. And that's what they called it to make it sound better. So basically, yes, it happened with the Duggars. Amy remembers it. She talked about it on the show. And that's what all these children were experiencing. And no wonder they were these, good behaved children on every episode. The next thing that they talked about, Michelle Duggar actually wrote in her book, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about this, guys, just because I've been doing some research on it. It's called blanket training, and it's horrific, like horrific. So on the show, they had an IBLP survivor come on and tell what this blanket training is. And blanket training is basically, according to this survivor, you take an infant or a toddler, a baby, and you get their favorite blanket and you lay it on the floor. You place the baby on it or the child on it. And then you put an item they want near, like a toy or something like that. And when they reach for it, you slap them. So this little child who wants the toy, their favorite toy that you just set there, and they want to go get it every time you slap them. And supposedly the theory behind this is you break the rebellious side in the child. Like it's horrible. So I couldn't believe how this was in Michelle's book and nobody said anything. So Michelle wrote about this. So when I dug into it, let me just find my notes for you guys. When I dug into this and found out more about how this was in Michelle's book, basically, Michelle in the book doesn't talk about the hitting part. So whether or not Michelle hit, we don't quite know. So in her book, this is what Michelle says in the book. Actually, you know what? I'll bring it up on here, guys, and I'll let you read what she wrote in the book. So I'll do that in just a second. Let me give it a little background first. So she doesn't talk about the hitting part, but if you look it up, what it is it's a parenting method from evangelical, however you say it, parenting. And it's called To Train Up a Child. And Michael and Debbie Pearl wrote this book. So they call it the Pearl Method. And in this book, in the Pearl Method, it talks about this blanket training. So basically it's like corporal punishment to teach your children to have total obedience to your parents and your family. Like they want total obedience. And this is how they did it. So in this book for this, what did I say it's called? The Pearl method in, to train up a child, what they refer to blanket training is this. They say that starting in infancy, you have to put a baby on a blanket and you have to flick it with a flexible ruler or another instrument of your choice if the baby tries to roll or crawl off the blanket. So this is the first part of it. So first training is making the baby stay on this blanket. And if the baby rolls off the blanket because they're learning to roll, or if they crawl off because they're learning to crawl, you hit them. And you hit them with a flexible ruler or an instrument of your choice. Like, guys, it's awful. Eventually, the baby will be basically trained to ignore their natural curiosity because they're now scared to go off the blanket and explore things, so they stop moving off the blanket. Then once that happens, you can start this toy training. Put the toy there, and if they reach for the toy, you can hit them. So this is what they thought was training the children, and it's absolutely disgusting. But Michelle wrote it in her book. I had to dig this up because I thought, how the heck was this in a book and nobody had an issue with it and nobody said anything? So I'm going to put it as my background here, guys, and read you what she actually wrote. So let me see if I can figure out how to do this. So let me go into, not stickers this time. I'll go into full screen so I can make it big and hopefully we can read what it actually says. So pictures, and I think it's screenshot number 1. Let me look. Oh, it's going to come big. I'm going to have to read it to you guys a different way because on my phone, it makes everything too large. So I'll read it from my other phone. So hold on. Let me get my screen back. I can't even believe we have to discuss this stuff on here, right? Like, it's crazy what they did. All right, here's our Duggar family back. Okay, I'm going to read you what she wrote. So, actually, I don't even know if I'll have the pictures on my old phone to read it to you. I'm going to have to just sum it up, guys. I am going to post, of course. Yeah, it hasn't updated. I'm using my older phone. I don't have the screenshot on here. So basically what she wrote, I will do a post. So you guys, if you hit follow, you can go check out my post. I will post all of the screenshots so you guys can read them, and I'll just sum it up. So basically what it is, in her book, Michelle didn't talk about hitting or slapping, but she does share that she uses this pearl technique. So what she says people are to do is, and of course she's on the documentary talking about this as well in her little sing-song voice. So she says, it's such a great bonding experience for my children. She says she gets this blanket. She says to the kids, like, oh, it's time for blanket training. Let's go. This is so exciting. It's blanket time. So she gets the kids, she gets the blanket, and she takes them to like a room with themselves and she put them on the blanket. So she says what she did is she would try and get them to stay on the blanket. So she would leave them on the blanket, and she said if they, and they had to sit, they couldn't, roll around. And she said, be like a pretzel. So I'm not sure what she meant by that, but they have to sit on this blanket. While they're sitting on the blanket, she sits in front of them and she says she just stares at them. Like she just is sitting in front of them. And as soon as they try and get off the blanket or they roll or do anything, she claims in the book that she gets stern. So she reprimands them. And then, of course, they don't like being reprimanded. So they get back and they stay on the blanket. And then they do it again and she reprimands them. And she said in the book that what she does is she gets sterner and sterner as it happens. No hitting is mentioned, but you can guess yourself, right? If Amy Duggar says it happens, I'm sure it did. So she says that it gets to one point where the baby, this infant, will be on the blanket and she will go around the corner into like the kitchen or something where she can still peek and see them, but leave them there. And this is like extending the teaching. And she said she watches them secretly. And if they move or lay down or do anything different, she comes out and she says, I'll come out quickly and be extremely stern and unhappy with them. And it teaches them. Like, just disgusting. So she said she'll do this for, 5 to 15 minutes. And then afterwards, she says she takes them and she just praises them and it makes them feel like they just won the gold medal and they're so excited. Like, it's disturbing. And in Ginger's book, and a couple interviews that the girls have done, they basically said because of this training and the IBLP church, that they lived their whole life full of anxiety and full of fear of the world itself, because as you can imagine, from an infant, they're on this blanket having their curiosity basically beat out of them. Like it's awful. This is kind of what they did to the kids. The other thing that was crazy from this documentary was Michelle shared the buddy system. So Michelle Duggar talked about how she made this 19 kids and counting work. And what they did, guys, Michelle said she would have the baby and she of course nursed them. And she said when the baby was weaned, and I don't know how long that would be. Are we talking 6 weeks? Are we talking 6 months? Like, I don't know how long she fed her babies, but she said once the baby was weaned, she passed the baby to the next oldest sibling that didn't have a child attached to it. So she gave her child to her children to raise. So she said what happened was she weans the baby and then I give the baby to the next child and the child then has the responsibility of that child because now she's going to be making another baby, I'm assuming, right? So what happened is the child, whether they're 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever it is, now basically had their own child. So they were responsible for nighttime feedings. They were responsible for diaper changes, baths, like teachings, feedings, literally everything. That child, that baby is now that child's to take care of. So you've got an 11-year-old now having to care for this infant or this child. Like just, and imagine the attachment issues the baby would have. Like it's bonding with its mother and you know, then it gets weaned and all of a sudden it doesn't have its mother anymore. It's got this 11-year-old trying to take care of it. Like the whole thing to me was mind boggling. Those are kind of the biggest takeaways I took from this documentary. So it's called Shiny Happy People. It's on Amazon Prime if you haven't watched it. Those are kind of the most disturbing things. The whole IBLP church, cult, religion, whatever you want to call it, in itself was disgusting, but that was the biggest. I think the next biggest question that people had after I did my post on the most shocking things was, where are the Duggars right now? So I did a bunch of research into that as well. Again, I'm no professional. I just am obsessed with this documentary and the Duggar family in general. So if you're interested, hit follow and I'll be posting all these updates. But I did do a bunch of digging and I thought I'd share it with you guys tonight while we're kind of talking about it. So as you know, they have 19 children. Josh is the oldest and he's 35. So Josh basically is in prison for the next 12 and a half years or more. He, as I said, was arrested last year for disgusting, horrible, graphic, inappropriate pictures on his work computer of children. He was found guilty and he's in jail. When he gets out, he's going to have 20 years of probation. And then during that probation, he's not allowed to have any contact with minors that is unsupervised, including his own children. So that's kind of Josh. The last thing, oh, thank you so much for your first gift. Those are always so special. Guys, if you want to join the family, the heart at the top, when you click it, and then you can level up in my room anytime you comment, like, send gifts, anything like that. So that's the scoop with Josh right now. The last thing we just heard about him was in February, Josh actually went to solitary confinement and had another 2 months added to his subscription. I just said subscription, his sentence, because of having a cell phone. So he got caught in prison, thank you guys, with a cell phone, and they put him in solitary confinement, added 2 months to his sentence. So that's where Josh is right now. Before we finish with the rest of the kids, Jim Bob and Michelle are still in the home on their compound, we want to call it. And it's rumored that Jim Bob is now worth $3.5 million. Jana. So Jana is the next that everybody always asks about. She's the next oldest. She's a twin. Jana is now 33 years old. And we don't know a lot about Jana. She's very private. She doesn't post a lot on her Instagram, especially after the whole Josh fiasco. But Jana is not married. And she's the oldest daughter. And people kind of have their theories why. Some people think it's because she's the oldest that she wasn't allowed to get married because she has to raise the kids. I'm not really sure why she isn't married. But rumors are also kind of coming out now that maybe Jana has distanced from the IBLP program because she has been seen wearing pants. Now, I can't figure out if wearing pants is actually pulling away from this cult or not. And here's why. I'm going to show you this picture. This was on, I think it was Jessa's, I'll see in a sec. I think it was on Jessa's Instagram. She shared this picture of her and all the girls. I'm going to make this big for a sec just so you guys can see it. Let me spread it out here. So here it is. So this was on Jessa's Instagram. So this is all the Duggar girls. They all got together and went to a lunch. You can see Michelle. I think you see my picture here. There's Michelle. Oh, I thought she was wearing tights. Apparently they are tights, but apparently she's got a skirt, a black skirt over it. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see what people were showing me. So as you can see, when you look, it does look like she has a black skirt over it. So I guess I was wrong. She's not wearing pants, but I thought she had tights on, for goodness sakes. Jill's beside her in the orange pants. The youngest girls, I got to make it smaller so you can see here. The youngest girls are all wearing skirts and dresses. So all the girls, except Jana. So there's Jana. I'm going to zoom in. Oh, the hearts going on their heads. That's cute. So there's Jana. Jana is wearing pants, and they do kind of look like black jeans. So I don't know if it means she's veered or not, but Joanna's wearing jeans. Jessa, Ginger, they're all wearing jeans and pants. So I'll leave that up for a minute so you guys can check that. Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate that. So they're all wearing pants. So I don't know if that means they've pulled away from the IBLP or not, because Jana still lives home. You think that her family would be saying to her, like, you're under our roof, you're going to follow our rules, but apparently they're wearing pants. And I do know that, I believe it was Jessa's husband. It might've been Ginger's. I think it was Jess's though. I think it was Ben. Made a comment. It was either Ben or Jeremy, but anyway, made a comment that when their wife started wearing jeans and what the Duggars refer to as sexy clothing, that the Jim Bob and Michelle reached out and basically lectured them and said it was inappropriate. So we do know that they're not supposed to be wearing jeans and shorts and pants. So, I mean, we can take from it what we think, but I don't know if this is kind of a sign or not. We'll have to see. But yes, they are wearing pants. So we don't know if they pulled from the church, or are they just allowed to wear pants once they're over a certain age. All the young girls, as you can see though, are wearing skirts and dresses, and Michelle looks like she's wearing tights, but she actually has a skirt over it. So the next child, so that was Jana. So we don't know kind of what's going on with Jana, although sadly, in 2022, January 2022, Jana actually got in some trouble. Actually, I have Jana's statement from her Instagram. I'll show it to you here. So if you remember, Jana was babysitting, and basically one of the kids she was babysitting. Oh, I got to find where this picture is, guys. Hold on. Bear with me. Which one is Jana's? I think is this her statement? Yeah, here it is. Okay. I think I can make this. I should have done this with the book comments. Anyway, here's Jana's statement. So this was on her Instagram, and she says, "I'm only sharing this because the media has been having a field day with it all. I prefer a more private life, but I know my last name means that everything we do is open to public criticism and interest, especially during this time." So as you know, this is when Josh was going to jail. So this was just this past January when he was charged and arrested and in prison. So she says, "The raw facts. I was babysitting a few months ago when one of the children wandered outside alone. A passerby who saw the child called the police. This resulted in a written citation as well as a follow-up with child welfare, who concluded that it was an accident and the child was unharmed. They recognized it was a case of a child slipping out of the house when you turn your back for a moment. It all happened so quickly and was scary. I am grateful." I got to move it up, guys, so I can see it. "I am grateful for law enforcement and those who protect and serve our community. I was certainly never arrested like many may have implied. In the end, I was just upset at myself that this happened at all, but so thankful it all ended safely, and that's truly what mattered the most to me." So this was Jana's statement that she had posted on her Instagram soon after the incident happened, because rumors were going around that she was arrested, that she was going to prison. Like, it was crazy. So what I found when I looked it up was that the citation was about, what did it say? $880 for child endangerment, because the child was outside. She did plead guilty. She did pay the citation. She had child welfare come, and they basically realized that it was an accident, but she still had to pay, I guess. So this was kind of the last thing that we officially heard from Jana, other than kind of posts and like other things that are on her sister's accounts. So one thing that I've seen recently, or I guess fairly recently, was that she she is into like construction and stuff like that. So she was on one of her sister's posts, building like a closet, and she had pants on at the time. So rumor right now is that Jana has moved out into an apartment, but what I'm hearing is that it's still on the Duggar family compound. So supposedly Jana has moved out, that she's not living in the family home per se. Thank you, Heidi, for joining the family. Thank you. But supposedly she's still on the property, so she hasn't really distanced herself. So we don't know what's going on yet quite with that. So Jana is a twin. Her twin is John David. So John David is 33 years old now. I can't believe these kids are this old. John David is 33, Jana's twin. And he actually was elected as a constable at one point in Washington County, Arkansas in 2014. He now works as a pilot. Thank you, Erica. Oh, 80% of my goal. He now works as a pilot, and he got married in 2018, and I believe he has 2 children. I'm going to just preface this with, I might be off a bit with the children, the count for the children, because some of them have had more babies more recently since some of these documents I've been reading. Court, thank you. Jill. So Jill is next. Jill, guys, has a whole story of her own. I'm just going to take off my sweatshirt because I am sweating. So Jill is married, as you guys know, and Jill was just on the documentary, the Shiny Happy People documentary that we were just talking about. And she shared quite a bit in that, guys. Thanks, Heidi. So basically, she married Derek. They've been pretty vocal that they are no longer in the IBLP, that they are not close to the family. Thanks, Susan. And Jill is 32 years old now. She left the show in 2017 and they got an attorney. So when she left the show, she and Derek hired an attorney to try and get back some of the money that Jim Bob kept. So as you know, Jim Bob didn't give the children a cent from any of what they did on these shows. So Derek's an attorney himself, but this wasn't his area of expertise. Like he had to hire someone good because of course Jim Bob would, or TLC would. And so they actually won. So they did get some money. They said it was really disappointing though. They said they basically got like minimum wage, like $10 an hour for what they had done on the show. But at least they got something, I guess. So that was all done in 2020 and they shared the trials of that, like everything they were going through at the time. The next youngest sibling, Jessa. Jessa is 30. She's actually married to Ben Seawald and they have, I think, 4 kids together. She's actually a content creator. So she is on social media, especially Instagram. She has not come out and said like, I don't follow IBLP anymore. But in Ginger's book, just this past January, Ginger said in the book that Jessa is now on her own spiritual journey. And we know that Ben is actually a pastor in a Baptist church. So it's apparent that she no longer follows that, but they are still extremely religious. But they're no longer following the hardcore rules. Thanks, Heidi. Next we have Ginger. So Ginger is 29 now, you guys. Crazy, but she's 29. She married Jeremy and they have, I think, 2 kids. She just wrote a book. So she was the first one to kind of come out and say, we're not doing this anymore in the IBLP. She wrote a book and it was called Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear. In the book, she talks about the fact that she's still super religious and loves God, but the IBLP church is garbage. So she's trying to pull like her religious beliefs away from like what IBLP was teaching them. So IBLP, guys, if you weren't on, basically tells them they can't wear jeans or pants. They can't take birth control. They can't drink or do drugs. They can't dance. At one point in the documentary, it tells us that Bill Gothard was telling them that Cabbage Patch Kids were basically evil and that what was the maker of the Cabbage Patch dolls? Xavier. Anyway, they said that Bill Gothard was saying that he was a warlock. Like it's just crazy the stuff that they said. So they weren't even allowed to have like Cabbage Patch Kids or certain dolls and stuff. Xavier Roberts, is that what it was, guys? A warlock, yeah. Alexander? Xavier. Oh, now what is it? Put the Xavier Roberts? Okay, you know the gist. So that's kind of who it is. So supposedly he was a warlock. He was evil. They had a video on it. Like it was crazy. They of course had to watch what they wore. They were not allowed to wear. Jeanette, thanks for joining the family, love. They were not allowed to wear anything that showed above, I believe it said the calf. They were not allowed to show any like skin at all. Like it was, anyway, this was all kind of in the program. The other thing was that they were all homeschooled, as you guys know. And when they were homeschooled, the books that they used for homeschooling were written by Bill Gothard, the head of the IBLP program. And IBLP, again, stands for the Institute of Basic Life Principles. Thanks, Tamra. And the homeschool that they followed was called... Oh, that, guys. Thank you for the gifts. I really do appreciate that. You guys are sweet. Let me get the name of it. It was called ATI, Advanced Training Institute. This is the homeschool program that all of these kids had, and everybody who follows the IBLP program and is homeschooled has to have this. And it's just like, it's crazy. Guys, the books were called wisdom books, and nothing in it basically was researched. Thanks, Tamara. So nothing was researched, nothing was sourced. It basically was just like, here's our beliefs, and you need to follow all this. Like, just ridiculous stuff. Oh, hold on, guys. My goal got reset, and I don't. Oh, well, I'll just leave it now. There we go. I guess there's a new goal. Anyway, yes. So the homeschooling program, the books were called wisdom books. You can actually still buy them on Amazon, but they claim that they're not using it as curriculum anymore, which personally I don't believe. I don't know what you guys think, but I don't believe it. And so they got trained with these books. Thank you. They got trained with these books, and it's all they knew. So basically they were taught all of this IBLP program. This is so hard to do this seriously now with the mustaches. Sorry, guys. Thank you, though. Thank you. And this is what they were homeschooled with. So they were not educated properly. They were taught what they could wear, how they could talk, all that stuff. It was awful. So this is what Jill's talking about, and this is what they're pulling away from now, and this is what they're supposedly not going to be teaching their own kids, this type of stuff now, and making their own children wear these things, I guess is what's happening. The next youngest, so that was Ginger. Ginger, like I said, is very, I love you guys. Thank you. Ginger's very vocal about not being in the IBLP anymore, but is still extremely religious. They all apparently are still extremely religious. Next is Joseph. So like I said, a lot of the men in the family, the boys, are not really active on social media. So we don't know who's kind of still in IBLP, who's still close with the family. We only know kind of little bits and pieces so far. Thanks, B. So for Joseph, Joseph is in real estate right now. He married Kendra, and I believe they have 3 kids. Whether or not he's in IBLP, we don't know. Under Joseph was Josiah. Josiah's 26 now. I can't believe these kids are this old. 26 now. He's married to Lauren, and they do have a couple kids as well. Joanna. So Joanna is on Instagram. Like, she has her own YouTube channel. She is like an influencer. So she's 26. No, sorry. She's 25. She has 3 kids, and she's married to Austin. Thank you, Lovey. She's married to Austin, and they are extremely religious still. Some people kind of speculate that they've gone from one cult to another, but Joanna, thank you, Maria. Oh my God, you guys made it halfway to my goal. I love you guys. So Joanna has posted a lot. A lot of people think she is like extremely cult minded still, even though she has left the IBLP. I'm not too sure about that. But next is Jedediah. Jedediah is 24. He's also a twin. And in 2019, he actually ran for the Arkansas State House District, and he lost. So as I told you, the IBLP wanted them all kind of in government, infiltrating everything. And he, I guess, wasn't able to make it. So he lost. However, he is now married to Caitlin. I think they have 1 child, and he works for his dad's car dealership. I mean, someone's got to run Jim Bob's stuff, right? So apparently Jedediah does that. Thank you, Lovey. Jeremiah is his twin. Jeremiah is 24, and Jeremiah has an Instagram account. And according to his Instagram account, he is like a jack of all trades. So he's 24, as you know, he's a twin. He's in real estate. He's got his real estate license. He's a flight instructor. There's a lot of kind of pilots and stuff going on. Jess! He is also a contractor. And he has been married to Hannah, and I believe they have 1 child. Now, Jason is next. Jason's 23. Jason did work with his family, and they flipped and sold houses. So that was kind of his jam. But since then, he started his own company, his own construction company, building homes, and it was called Build Master Construction. Now, he is 23, and I've heard recently that something went on with this construction company. What the rumors are is that he didn't pay his licensing and he let it run out or something for the construction company. And of course you can't run the company without the license. So rumor is that he's starting a tree trimming company. again, these are just rumors. I don't know, how much of this is true or not, but supposedly he's just starting up this tree trimming company and there's no licensing for it. People are concerned because I guess it's extremely dangerous, as you can imagine, for people that don't really know what they're doing. So I don't know quite what's going on with that, but it's not looking too good. James, I love James, guys. James is 21. James is the rancher in the family. So James has a bunch of pictures of him on the Duggar camp compound with the cattle. So they actually have cattle on there that they're running. I don't know if it's meat or milk or what it is, but he runs that supposedly. And he's also a commercial driver. He has a commercial driver's license and he's working towards getting his pilot license. And he posted a picture on his Instagram of him and his brother Jeremiah. And if you remember, Jeremiah is the one that has his flight instructor license. So he posted saying like Jeremiah is the best flight instructor. Where are you from? I hear a Canadian accent. Yes. Oh, Val, you're good. I'm from New Brunswick, Canada. So it's all Canadian here. Major Canadian accent, apparently. The next brother, Justin. Justin is 20. And guys, Justin's already married, like 20 years old. And he didn't just get married. He got married in 2021. So 2 years ago. So he's married to Claire and they moved away. They live in Texas now. And they're flipping houses. So that's kind of his jam. Thanks, Brittany. Jackson is 19. Jackson is the only one that we can say 100% is fully into the IBLP because Jackson actually just graduated from a 9-week basic training course at ALERT. And ALERT stands for Air Land Emergency Resource Team Academy. So it was kind of like, it reminds me of like the military type thing, but it's the military for the IBLP. So they're associated with the IBLP. So he 100%, he's in deep, guys. He's not coming out. Like he's in it. Joanna. So Johanna is 17 and Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan Grace, and Josie are all the 4 youngest children and they don't have socials. So we don't really know a lot about what's going on with them. They're probably not allowed to have socials, I'm guessing, knowing the family. But Johanna, actually, I didn't know this, but she released a musical album with her younger sisters and Anna and Josh's daughter as well in 2018 called Happy Heart. So I guess if you want to go listen to that, download that on Spotify, you can. Jennifer's 15. She, of course, has no socials either. Jordan Grace is 14 and Josie's 13. So Josie, I cannot believe, is 13. I remember when Josie was born and she was like a little preemie on the show, if you remember. Christine from Moncton. Hi, love. Maritimers. So she's 13. And we have to do a little side note for Tyler. So Tyler, he is not a part of the Duggar original crew. Tyler Hutchins is Michelle's great nephew. So they actually have permanent custody now of Tyler. He's 15. So he's living permanently now with the Duggars. Basically, from what I can find out, his mom couldn't care for him anymore. And that he was removed from the home from his mom. His dad isn't listed on the birth certificate, so I don't know who the father is. But he was removed from the home and he went to live with his grandmother, which I'm assuming is Michelle's sister. But anyway, his grandmother then had health issues and couldn't care for him any longer. So then he went to live with Jim Bob and Michelle, and he went in November of 2016. So he's been living with the Duggars since then, and he's integrated. He is part of the family. He's on their website. Like he is now a Duggar, like officially he's still a Hutchins, but he's considered a Duggar. So that's kind of where everybody is right now. Thank you for sticking around because that was a long haul there going through everything, guys. As you can imagine, 19 kids. If you are interested, make sure you hit follow because I will be doing more lives on this. And anytime there's any updates or anything like that, I will definitely make new posts for all of those.